Hello. So, in this series of Igniting Your Creative Passion, we've been talking about what you need to do to be reconnected with your creativity. Today, we're going to talk about building a creative routine. And we're going to talk about starting small but dreaming big, creating a ritual, time block your creativity, track your progress, and then mix it up. Starting with small projects. Dream big, but start small. Dedicate about 5 or 10 minutes a day to creativity, to gradually increasing it. What is it that you can do? Just a small piece of something. Begin with tiny projects, drawing a simple shape or writing a couple sentences or a couple notes in the music or a small part of your business plan, whatever it may be. Just start small. Start with something that is not overwhelming, that doesn't throw you off because there's so many things to do. Remember, we talked yesterday about taking that big project and working it down to small projects. So we're going to do that. Begin with those small projects. Track how you feel before and after doing these micro sessions. And then you're going to have a better idea of whether what you're working on is still too big or now it's at a manageable size and you can actually work on it small bits, baby steps. That's what we're going to take. Think of those small wins of a way to build your self-confidence in order to create bigger projects. As you're building your confidence with these small steps, you're going to feel more comfortable doing those bigger things that you want to accomplish. If you're starting small and then you can write a couple sentences and draw in a small picture, it builds your confidence. Use a timer to protect your creative time from those distractions. I said 5 to 10 minutes. So set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and don't push yourself to go beyond that. If you're in the flow and you do go beyond it, that's fine, but just don't push yourself to go beyond that if you're not feeling it. If you're setting yourself small tasks, then those small tasks will build up. But if you're pushing yourself, it's not gonna feel good. And there's no point in doing that if it doesn't feel good. So number 2, create a ritual. Light a candle, play a specific song to mark the beginning of your creative time. Set yourself up with something that intuitively gets into your soul and says, okay, this is what we're going to be doing at this time. Every time I start creating, I have my notepad with these particular pens, or I listen to a particular song for inspiration, or I read a particular section of a book that inspires me. I speak to a particular person that lifts me up to be able to encourage me to do the things that I need to do. Develop a warm-up routine, something that gets you into that creative zone, something that gets you moving. If you're writing stories, writing the ABCs, or if you're drawing, doing the circular writing, drawing sketches. So there are the voice exercises that you want to do. You want to do the same thing for your creative outlet. So if it's writing or drawing or whatever it may be, create some warm-up exercises for yourself. And it can be something that you make up. It's perfectly fine. So set your space as well with intention. Everything is in its place. Everything is where you need it to be. It's easily accessible. You don't have to, get up halfway through what you're doing because you forgot to get something. Make sure that you have everything that you need right within reach of what you're working on. So for me, right now, I have my area set up for my tarot cards. So I have a couple decks in front of me. I have a couple decks beside me. I have one in my hand. Do the same thing with your creative stuff. Do the same thing with your artwork or your music or, the story that you want to write. Have your if you're old school, your typewriter, or have your computer all ready and set up with, where you want it to be. If you're working on your business, what is it that you need to have readily at hand for you to be able to do that? And set the intention that this is what I'm going to work on. It's going to be productive. It's going to be constructive, whatever it may be. Set that intention for that time. And then close each creative session with a gratitude process. Gratitude for the process that you've gone through. Whatever came out, doesn't matter if it's worthwhile in your mind or not. You're working on building that up. You're building your skills. You're building that muscle memory. You're building that confidence in yourself. So have gratitude for that process at the end of each one of your sessions. You'll be more inclined to come back and go, okay, yes, this is something that makes me feel good. This is something I want to continue. And then treat yourself to a small reward. It doesn't have to be anything massive, but you've stuck to this creative ritual for a week, then reward yourself. I've done this for a week. I managed to set 10 minutes aside every day, and I worked on this project that I wanted to work on, or I worked on this creative outlet thing that I wanted to do, this hobby, this process, whatever it may be that you wanted to do. You've worked on it for a week. Reward yourself. Even if you give yourself small rewards at the end of each day, that's great, but reward yourself at the end of the week for having done everything that you wanted to get done. If you time block your creativity, choose your most creative time of the day and block that time off for uninterrupted work. It may be that early morning is better for you before you go to work. It may be that later on in the evening may be better for you. Set yourself a set time so that you know that you need to get everything ready. Use planners or apps with reminders to schedule those regular creative sessions, or else they're not going to get done. If it's not on your planner, you're going to put it off. You're going to schedule something in the meantime. You're going to be too busy and not make the time for something that really is what you want to do. Treat your creative time like it's a sacred thing. It's non-negotiable. This is what I want to do. This is the time I've set aside. And move other things if you need to. But your creative time is just as important for you to have that sanity, to be able to do the things that you want to do, to be able to rewrite your story in the way that you want it written. So that time is just as important as anything else. Things that you have to do for other people, things that you have to do for, your loved ones, your kids, your husband, your significant other, whatever. That's important. It is. But time for you, for your creative thing, is just as important as what you need to do for them. So putting aside 5 to 10 minutes is not going to take a lot of time away from everything else that's going on. So you need to make sure that you hold fast to that. Set that boundary. Yes, I need to have this done. There are other things that need to be done, but those can be put aside for right now. Laundry can wait. It can wait. Honestly, it can. Experiment with different lengths of time. Maybe 5 minutes is all that you can squeeze in today. Maybe tomorrow you can do 20 minutes. Maybe the next day you can do 15, and the day after that you can do 10. It doesn't matter. Just set yourself some time. At least 5 minutes. And like I said, if you go a little bit over because you're in the zone, that's great. If you can set aside more time, then do it. Do it. You're well worth it. You're allowed to do these things for yourself. And the more that you do these for yourself, the more that you're going to be inclined to do things for other people. You got to fill that cup. And the creative process is one way of you filling that cup. So review and adjust your schedule weekly. Sundays, like I told you before, are our review day. We check out, what do we do this week? Did it work out? Do I need to change things up? For me, it's like, okay, what do I need to do with my videos? Do I need to batch them all together? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it depends on our week. Our weeks are very flexible because with work, we have to be flexible. So I need to be flexible for this. So you do the same thing for yourself. Okay, review. Did this work? I set aside 5 minutes. I was able to do 20 minutes. Can I set 20 minutes aside next week? If you're not sure, then set at least 10 minutes. If you go a little bit more, that's great. But you've got a little bit more than just that 5 minutes. All right? Track your progress. You know how I feel about journals. Keep a journal or digital log of your creations, your ideas, your wins, your struggles. How did you feel when you accomplished whatever it was you accomplished in your 5 to 10 minutes? Did you feel good? Did you feel more frustrated because you didn't get done what you wanted to get done? Were you happy with the work that you finished? So writing these down allows you to move forward, be able to Adjust what you need to adjust. Use visuals like charts or mood boards or whatever you need to, a vision board to track your progress. If you're like me, you need to have that visual. This wall right here is too blank for me. I'm trying to figure out what I want to put here. I've got a wall in front of me here and a wall in front behind me there. I'm trying to figure out, do I want to fill these walls up or do I want to leave them open? For me to be able to see what I want to work on, I need to be able to see it. So reflect weekly on what worked and what didn't work in your creative practice. Did it work out properly or not? And then celebrate milestones, no matter how small. Remember, no matter how small. This is all in tracking your progress. Share your progress with a trusted friend or a community that, for accountability. That's what the school community is for you to be able to share what it is that you're doing. Share where you're working on, what you're doing. Leave a comment below. If this is something that resonated with you and you've been working on it, leave a comment. Tell me what's going on. I would love to hear what you're working on. And then number 5, mix it up. Don't just do one thing. If you're a watercolorist, if you're a poet, if you're a musician, if you've started a business and you want to start another one, experiment with different creative mediums. So one of the things that I love to do is go to like a bookstore, for example, and look at the magazines that I would not normally look for. So Mechanics or Tattooist or the Guys magazine, GQ or whatever it is, or, sewing or home and garden. If you're looking for other inspiration in areas that you don't normally look in, you're going to find things that inspire you to do something different in your work. If you normally work with watercolors, experiment with acrylics or oils. If I talked about this yesterday. If you're, a writer and you're, normally write long stories, try writing some poetry. If you're a writer, try doing some artwork. If you're a musician, try writing a story. A musician pretty much is writing a story, but you get my meaning. So try new locations, new environments for your creative work. Go to a park, go to a library, go to a busy coffee shop where there's all kinds of noise and you can hear different types of music or you can hear different people talking. I love going where you hear different languages and the way different languages sound. You can come up with so many different ideas just by being in an environment that you're not normally in. You're around people that you're not normally around. So try and incorporate prompts or challenges to push your boundaries. Something that you wouldn't normally do, just to push a little bit outside of what you're used to. If you're not normally working in landscapes and doing the perspective, practice drawing that. If you're not an intuitive painter, you love realistic portraits, step outside your boundaries and just push a little to experiment with something different. Switch up your tools. Use colored pencils or different papers or new apps, new musical instruments. Change up what you're doing. And then embrace spontaneity. Let curiosity guide you. Let it take you where it will. Wonder why things work the way that they do, or how somebody created something, and how can you incorporate it into what you're working on. It's amazing when you think outside of the box and outside of the realm of what you're working on and how people can bring that into a medium and use that with what they're doing. The acrylic flow artists or writers who write completely different types of stories. Salvador Dali, who, Picasso, all of these creatives who stepped outside of the box and brought in a different way of doing things. Think of a different way that you could do whatever it is that you think is, whatever you feel is a creative outlet for you. How can you do things differently? All right, so action steps that you can take. Number 1, take a 20-minute walk outside and notice 5 details, colors, textures, sounds that spark your curiosity. I love doing this. I'll go outside and close my eyes and just see what I can hear. And how many layers of sound can you go? Like, how deep can you go? Can you go as deep as hearing your heartbeat above all the sounds that are outside of you? Can you notice the different tones of color on the leaves that are in the trees? Can you hear different sounds and different types of music? What is it that you can notice that you didn't normally notice? So number 2, pick a natural object, a leaf, a flower, a rock, whatever it is, and use it for inspiration for a quick sketch or a poem or a story. Okay, so number 3, photograph or paint a scene of your favorite outdoor spot. So even if you're a musician or you're building a business, taking photographs or doing something outside of what you think is your normal thing will give you some inspiration for moving forward on whatever creative project you're working on. So if you don't normally do these things and you're exploring the different mediums, the different ideas that you can come up with, you may end up finding something that actually works with what you normally use or what your normal creative outlet is. The number 4, start a creative or a natural journal to record observations or reflections that are inspired by the outdoors when you go out and walk through nature. You may find, again, that even though you may not think of this as something that has any correspondence to your creative outlet, you may be inspired to create something that you would never expect because you're keeping track of those things in a journal. Number 5, create something using natural materials, pressed flowers or twigs or stones, whatever it may be. Again, you're going to create something that is outside of what you normally do, and that may create some inspiration for something that you do normally do. And now, journaling prompts. So journaling prompts, what emotions do I feel when I'm surrounded by nature, and how can I channel those creatively? So what emotions do I feel when I'm surrounded by nature, and how can I channel them creatively? What lessons can I learn from the cycles of nature? Growth, rest, renewal. How can I incorporate those into my life? What lessons can I learn from the cycles of nature? Growth, rest, renewal. How does nature's imperfection inspire me to embrace my own creative flaws? Life is not perfect. So how does nature's imperfections inspire me to embrace my own creative flaws? What's one memory of being in nature that made me feel alive? What's one memory of being in nature that made me feel alive? And then number 5, the final one, if I could describe my creative energy as a natural element, example, water, fire, wood, air, what would it be and why? If I could describe my creative energy as a natural element, what would it be and why? So if this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. Comment below. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me what creative outlet you're expressing yourself through. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and remember, live life adventurously. It's the only way to live.